They made me sleep in the garage during holidays, so I bought the house and evicted them all. The paper in my hand was already soft from how many times I'd clenched it, like my fingers were trying to crush the words back into nothing. My aunt's dining room smelled like cinnamon rolls and burnt coffee, and somebody's kid was shrieking in the living room because a new toy made noise, but all I could hear was my own pulse thudding behind my ears. My uncle had the TV on low, some morning sports show, while my stepdad laughed too loudly at something my brother said, like we were all just having a normal holiday morning. I set the envelope on the table next to the butter dish and said, very evenly, I need everyone to read this. My stepdad's smile faltered first. My mom's face went blank, the way it always did right before she decided whether she was going to defend me or sacrifice me. My brother, still in his pajama pants, hair sticking up, squinted at the envelope like he was trying to figure out what kind of attention grab I was pulling. Then my stepdad opened it, scanned the first line, and the color drained from his face so fast it was almost unnatural. He looked up at me like I'd slapped him with a glove. "What is this?" he said, voice raw. "It's a notice," I said. My mouth felt dry, but I forced the words out anyway. 30 days. I'm giving you time to find somewhere else." My mom's chair scraped back hard. "Somewhere else," she repeated, and her voice went thin. "What are you talking about?" My stepdad's eyes were darting across the page, reading faster now, like he could outrun what it said. His hands started shaking. He tried to laugh, this awful, panicked little laugh, but cracked in the middle. "This is a joke," he said. "This has to be a joke." My brother leaned over his shoulder and read, and then he made a sound like he'd been winded. "Eviction," he said, and his head snapped toward me. "Are you kidding me?" I didn't raise my voice. I didn't slam my fists on the table. I didn't do anything dramatic because I knew if I did, they'd make the story about my attitude instead of their actions. I just kept my hands on the edge of the table and felt the cool wood under my palms like an anchor. "I'm not kidding," I said. "I'm done being treated like I'm lucky to be allowed inside this family." My mom's eyes flashed. "Inside this family?" She said, scoffing, like I'd accused her of something ridiculous. "We invited you here." "You invited me here and put me in the garage," I said, and the words came out quieter than I expected, but they landed like a brick because every person at that table knew it was true. "Again, like you always do." My stepdad slammed the paper down. "That's not what this is about," he snapped, voice rising now. "You're doing this because you're petty, because you want to embarrass us." My aunt, who'd been hovering near the counter like a ghost with a dish towel, whispered, "Oh my God," under her breath. I looked at my stepdad and felt something in my chest go very cold and very clear. "You embarrass yourselves," I said. "For years." It was a Tuesday night in late November when I realized I could actually do it. That sounds weird, saying it like it was some moment of inspiration, but it wasn't cinematic. It was me standing in the garage in my socks, staring at a space heater from 2009, watching my breath puff out in the air like smoke, and realizing my family would rather freeze me than be mildly inconvenienced. Let me back up, because if you haven't lived this kind of family dynamic, it sounds insane on paper. Growing up, my mom married my stepdad when I was 9. My biological dad had been gone long enough that everyone spoke about him like a weather pattern. Something that happened, something you couldn't control, something you moved on from. My stepdad came with a son 2 years older than me, and then he and my mom had my little half-sister when I was 11. Suddenly the house had this hierarchy that was never said out loud, but was followed like law. The boys were busy, the baby was fragile, and I was available. The extra pair of hands. The one who could be told, "Just do it. It's easier if you do it." By the time I was a teenager, I could cook dinner, fold laundry, soothe a crying toddler, and make myself invisible at the same time. I learned quickly that if I asked for things, rides, money for school trips, attention, I was ungrateful and dramatic. If I didn't ask, I was so mature, which somehow meant they could ask more of me. Holidays were the worst, because holidays were when my stepdad's extended family came over and my mom got obsessed with appearances. It wasn't enough that we all ate together. It had to look like a magazine spread of a happy blended family. If I looked tired, my mom would hiss, "Fix your face." If I talked too much, my stepdad would make jokes about me, not knowing when to stop. If I tried to sit on a couch, my brother would say, "Move, you're in the way," and my mom would actually laugh like it was cute. And then there was the garage. The first time it happened, I was 16. My stepdad's parents came to stay for Christmas and took my room. Technically, it had been my room, but nothing was ever technically mine in that house. My mom knocked on my door and said, with this bright fake smile, "Sweetie, you're going to camp out in the garage for a few nights. It'll be fun, like an adventure. An adventure in a garage that smelled like gasoline and old paint, with a concrete floor that sucked heat out of your body like a vampire, with a broken mini fridge humming in the corner and boxes of holiday decorations stacked like towers." My stepdad dragged an old mattress out there that had a spring poking up near the middle, threw a sleeping bag on it, and said, "You'll be fine." I remember lying there that first night, staring up at the exposed rafters, listening to the house muffled through the wall, the laughter, the clinking glasses, the warm life I wasn't part of. I remember the cold seeping into my bones and the panic rising because I realized nobody was coming to check on me. Nobody thought it was cruel. It was just convenient. After that, it became normal. Just for the holidays, my mom would say like that made it okay. Just while we have guests, my stepdad would say like I was furniture that could be moved into storage. Even after I moved out at 18, went to community college, worked 2 jobs, and eventually clawed my way into a decent career, it still happened whenever I came back. "You can take the garage," my brother would say, like he was doing me a favor by not making me sleep in the car. "It's not that bad," my mom would insist, as if she'd ever spent a single night out there. I stopped coming for a while. I told them I was busy. I told them my work schedule was crazy. The real reason was that every time I drove away after holiday, I'd feel this ugly knot in my chest, like I'd volunteered to be humiliated and then gotten mad that it happened. But my little sister begged me to come back. She was 17 now, sharp-eyed, the only one in that house who sometimes looked at me like she understood. She texted me in October, "Please come for Thanksgiving. It's worse when you're not here. At least when you're here, I feel like I'm not alone." So I caved. Like an idiot, I caved. I showed up with a pie from a bakery, a bottle of wine from my mom, and a pit in my stomach that felt like muscle memory. My mom hugged me too tightly, like she was performing affection. My stepdad did the back pat hug men do when they don't want to commit. My brother barely looked up from his phone. My sister's face lit up and she whispered, "Thank you," like I'd done something heroic just by arriving. Dinner was tense, but manageable. My stepdad made a couple of jokes about my job. "So you still typing for a living?" And I smiled thinly and let it slide. My mom kept fussing over my brother's girlfriend like she'd won a prize. The usual. Then, after dessert, my stepdad clapped his hands and said, "All right, sleeping arrangements." My stomach clenched. My mom said, without looking at me, "We've got the guest room set up for Aaron and Jenna." My brother grinned smugly. "And Mom," my stepdad said, nodding toward his mother, "you take the couch. It's easiest." His mom, wrapped in a blanket like a queen, said, "Of course." "And you," my mom said finally, turning to me with that bright smile, "you can take the garage. We cleaned it up." "I'm 28, I said. My voice sounded calm, which surprised me. "I'm not sleeping in your garage." My stepdad's face hardened immediately. "Don't start," he said. "I'm not starting," I said. "I am stopping." My mom did the thing she always does when she wants to make me the problem. She laughed lightly. "Oh, don't be difficult. It's one night. One night every holiday for years," I said, and I felt my hand starting to shake under the table. "It's freezing out there." My stepdad shrugged. "You've done it before." "Yeah," I said, staring at him, because nobody cared enough to make it different. The room went quiet. My brother's girlfriend looked down at her lap, uncomfortable. My sister's eyes were wide, like she was watching a dam crack. My mom's smile tightened. "If you don't like it," she said softly, "you can always get a hotel." There it was, the dagger wrapped in velvet. "You're welcome here, as long as you accept the scraps." I swallowed. "Fine," I said. "I'll get a hotel." My stepdad laughed, relieved, like he'd won. "Good. Problem solved." Except it wasn't solved, because when I went to book one, Every hotel within 20 minutes was either sold out or charging holiday rates that made me laugh out loud in disbelief. I stood in the kitchen, phone in hand, watching the numbers climb, and my mom said, "See, garage makes sense." That's when I went out there anyway, because I didn't have a better option in the moment. I laid my coat over the mattress, turned on the space heater, and watched the orange coil glow like it was trying its best. I could smell the cold metal, the dust burning off. My breath fogged. My fingers went numb. And I thought, if I stay, nothing changes. If I leave, nothing changes. So I need a third option. The third option turned out to be money. Not in the I'm rich and evil way people assume when they hear a line like bought the house. And I kept my head down for 10 years and built stability while they stayed reckless way. Because here's another thing. My stepdad and mom weren't doing well financially. They never were. Not really. They had the house, my stepdad's pride and crown jewel, and they acted like owning it made them better than everyone else. But I'd heard the fights through walls growing up. I'd seen the final notice envelopes they try to hide under junk mail. I'd watch them refinance every few years like it was a magic trick. That Tuesday night in late November, back in the garage, I realized I could probably find out exactly how shaky they were. Not through spying, but through the obvious. They weren't careful. They left papers everywhere. They talked around things like everyone was too stupid to notice. The next morning, when I went inside to use the bathroom, I saw it on the counter. An envelope from the lender, opened, the word delinquent, visible on the inside page. My heart did this strange lurch, not satisfaction, not yet, just confirmation. I didn't take it. I didn't photograph it. I just looked at it long enough to know it was real, then walked away. On my drive home, my hands gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles hurt. I kept replaying the garage, my sister's small voice whispering good night through the door, my mom's laugh, my stepdad's shrug. I kept thinking about the lender letter, and I kept thinking about the fact that they were adults with a whole house and still found ways to make me feel like I should be grateful for concrete. I made a call that day to a realtor friend of mine, not to ask how to steal a house, but to ask a question like an adult. If someone is behind on their mortgage, what are the ways a house changes hands? My friend was quiet for a second, then said carefully, "Are you okay?" "I'm fine, Elid. I just need information." Information turned into research. Research turned into a plan. I didn't go scorched earth immediately. I didn't wake up and decide to ruin them. I tried, at first, to be reasonable, because there's still a part of me that wants to believe my mom can be decent if I say the right words. I asked her to meet me for coffee. Just her. No estipthath. She showed up with that guarded smile she uses when she suspects criticism. "I'm not sleeping in the garage anymore," I told her directly. My mom's smile tightened. "Okay," she said, like she was humoring a child. "Then don't come if you're going to be dramatic." "Here." "Mom," I said, and my voice shook. "Do you hear yourself?" She leaned in, eyes sharp. "You always do this," she said. "You always want to make things into a big trauma story." I felt my chest go hollow. "It's not a story," I said. "It's my life." She sipped her coffee, shrugged. "It's just sleeping arrangements." And that was the moment I realized she wasn't going to get it. Or she did get it and didn't care. Either way, the outcome was the same. A week later, my realtor friend told me something that made my stomach flip. The house had a notice recorded. Not a foreclosure auction date yet, but the early steps. The kind of thing that meant if nobody did anything, the house would eventually end up in the bank's hands and my mom and stepdad would be forced out anyway. When I told Mark, my boyfriend at the time, now fiancé, he looked at me with this worried calm. "What do you want to do?" he asked. And it was the first time that question didn't feel like a trap. "I want them to stop treating me like I'm disposable," I said. "And I want my sister safe." So I made them an offer. Not a manipulative one. A straight offer. I sat them down at their kitchen table. Same table I'd been told to clear as a teenager. And I said, "I know you're behind. I can help." My stepdad's face went red. "We're fine," he snapped immediately. My mom's eyes darted. "How do you know anything about our finances?" "Because you left the lender notice on the counter," I said, and my voice stayed calm because I refused to play their shame game. "And because I'm not stupid." My stepdad scoffed. "So what? You're going to lecture us now?" No, I said. I'm offering to buy the house. The room went so still I could hear the fridge hum. My mom blinked. Buy it, she whispered. Yes, I said. I can pay off what you owe, take the mortgage in my name, and you can stay here. I'll draw up a lease. Fair rent. Clear terms. You'll have stability. No more notices. No more panic. My stepdad stared at me like I'd grown a second head. Then he laughed, one of those harsh laughs. He said. You can't afford this house. I didn't argue. I just slid my pre-approval letter across the table. His laugh died. My mom's hand shook as she read. This is real, she said. It's real, I said. And I'm not doing it to control you. I'm doing it because I don't want my sister losing her home, because you're too proud to admit you need help. My stepdad pushed the paper back like it burned. So the garage kid buys the house, he muttered. That's what you want? To throw it in our faces. I felt something sharp rise, but I swallowed it. I want a relationship where I'm not humiliated, I said. And I want the holidays to stop being a punishment. My mom whispered, David. My stepdad glared at me. You'll use it against us. I'm literally offering to prevent you from being foreclosed on, I said, and my voice finally cracked a little because the absurdity was choking me. If you think that's an attack, then I don't know what to tell you. They asked for time. Of course they did. They dragged it out for weeks, and in those weeks, I could feel the house shifting in my mind from their kingdom to a building I could save. Then the lender letter got worse. Then the calls got worse. Then reality got loud enough that pride couldn't drown it out. They agreed. We did the clean way. A proper sale, lawyers, paperwork, everything above board. I bought the house in my name. I gave him a lease. I set rent below market because I'm not a cartoon villain. I told him clearly, this is your home as long as you treat me with basic respect and follow the agreement. My mom cried and hugged me like I'd rescued them. My stepdad wouldn't look me in the eye. My brother made a joke about me being landlord now, like it was hilarious. And for a minute, an actual minute, I thought maybe it would change things. Maybe saving them would finally make me worthy. Maybe my mom would stop treating me like an inconvenience. Maybe my stepdad would stop needing to remind everyone he was the man of the house. Spoiler, it did not. The first holiday after the sale, my mom hosted Christmas like nothing had happened. Big meal, extended family, the same performance. At 10:30 p.m., my mom knocked on the guest room door and said brightly, Sweetie, you can take the garage tonight. Aaron and Jenna need the guest room. Just stared. She blinked, confused by my silence. What, she said. You're the easiest. You don't mind. My mouth went dry. I could feel my heartbeat in my throat. Mom, I said slowly, you do remember I own this house now, right? Her face tightened. Don't start, she warned. No, I said, and I surprised myself by smiling because it wasn't joy. It was disbelief. You don't get to tell me to sleep in the garage in my own house. My stepdad appeared behind her, face already angry. It's one night, he snapped. Stop acting like you're above family. Above family. Because I wanted a bed. In the house I'd just saved. Aaron, my brother, leaned in the hallway with his arms crossed. It's not a big deal, he said. Just do it. My little sister stood behind them, eyes wide and scared, like she knew a storm was coming. Something in me finally broke clean. Not messy, not loud, just done. I said no. My stepdad's face twisted. Excuse me. No, and if you don't like it, you can leave. The words hung in the hallway like smoke. My mom's mouth parted like she couldn't comprehend them. You wouldn't, she whispered. I looked at her. I thought about 16-year-old me shivering under a sleeping bag. I thought about the smell of gasoline and the way laughter sounded through walls. I thought about my sister begging me to come because she felt alone. I thought about the lease in my email signed clear real. I would, I said. My stepdad stepped closer, eyes hot. You ungrateful little. I held up a hand. Don't, I said, and my voice was low but steady. I'm not doing this in front of everyone. You can read the lease. You can respect me. Or you can pack. The next morning, after everyone left and the house was finally quiet, my mom cornered me in the kitchen. Her eyes were puffy, her voice sharp. You're power tripping, she hissed. I leaned against the counter and felt this strange calm settle in. I'm boundary tripping, I said. You're just not used to me having any. She scoffed. So now you're going to throw us out? I don't want to, I said, and that was the truth. But I won't live like this. My stepdad refused to pay rent the next month. He called it principle. He told my mom I was trying to be a big shot. Aaron started showing up unannounced, letting himself in, acting like the house was still his playground. My mom started making comments about how I only care about money, which was rich considering I'd bailed them out. I gave warnings. I gave chances. I tried conversations. I tried letters. I tried being soft. Every attempt was treated like weakness. Then my stepdad did the thing that ended it. He had his buddies over one Saturday to work on the garage, and when I stopped by to check on my sister, I found my mattress dragged back out there. The old one, the one with the spring. Like a statement. He stood there with a beer in his hand, smirking. See, he said, it's ready for you. We even swept. My vision went white for a second, like my brain couldn't process that level of disrespect. Then it snapped back with a clarity that felt almost peaceful. I went home, opened my laptop, and contacted a property manager. Not because I wanted to be cruel, but because I needed a buffer between my heart and their manipulation. I served the notice properly. 30 days. Clear terms. No drama. Just consequences. Which brings us back to that holiday table, the envelope next to the butter dish, my stepdad's hands shaking. They screamed. Of course they did. My mom cried and called me heartless. My stepdad called me a traitor. Aaron called me psycho and told me I was ruining the family. My aunt tried to mediate in that fake soothing voice people use when they want the conflict to disappear without anyone changing. Let's all calm down, she kept saying, like calmness could reverse years of being treated like storage. I didn't scream back. I didn't list every cruel thing they'd ever done. I just said, over and over, you had choices. You chose disrespect. The only person who didn't attack me was my little sister. She slipped outside after me when I finally escaped to the porch, my breath coming out in sharp bursts in the cold air. She stood next to me, arms wrapped around herself. Are we really leaving? She whispered. My throat tightened. Not you, I said immediately. You can come with me if you want. I swallowed, forcing the next part out. I've already set up a room. At my place. Her eyes filled with tears. I don't want to leave my school, she said, voice trembling. I know, I whispered. I know. I'm not trying to rip you away. I'm trying to keep you safe. She wiped her face with her sleeve. Mom says you're doing it because you hate us. I stared out at the dark street, the quiet neighborhood, the normal world that had nothing to do with the mess inside that house. I don't hate you, I said. I hate what they do to me, and I hate that they taught you it's normal. She sniffed. You really slept out there? She asked, voice small. Like for real. I looked at her, and the tenderness in my chest almost hurt. Yeah, I said. For real. Her face crumpled, and she leaned into me like she was still little. I'm sorry, she whispered. I wrapped my arm around her shoulders. You don't have to be sorry, I said. You just have to remember it wasn't okay. The eviction went through like reality always does, slowly, painfully, with lots of resentment. My mom tried to rally relatives. My stepdad tried to intimidate me. Aaron tried to guilt me. They all tried the same tactic. Make me feel like consequences were cruelty. But here's what they didn't understand. Cruelty was making someone sleep in a garage and calling it family. On move-out day, my stepdad loaded boxes into a rented truck with stiff anger, refusing to look at me. My mom cried dramatically in front of the neighbors like she wanted an audience for her victimhood. Aaron slammed doors too hard. All noise, all performance. My sister hugged me before she got into my car, because yes, she came with me. Not forever, not as a weapon, not as revenge. Just because she finally admitted she didn't feel safe in that house when my stepdad was angry. She didn't say it loudly. She said it in a whisper at midnight with her phone clutched in her hand, and that was enough. When the truck finally pulled away, the house was silent in a way I'd never heard before. I stood in the driveway and looked at the garage door, same dent on the left side, same faded paint, and felt this strange mix of grief and relief. Because I didn't win anything. I didn't get a happy family. I just got the truth. Mark came up behind me and slipped his hand into mine. "You okay?" he asked quietly. I watched the empty street for a long moment. Then I said the honest thing. "I'm sad," I said, "and I'm free." That night, I went into the garage alone. I turned on the overhead light. The concrete floor looked clean, empty, just a slab of gray. I stood there and tried to summon the feeling I used to have, cold, small, waiting. It didn't come, because the garage wasn't the punishment anymore. It was just a room, and for the first time in my life, the house felt like mine, not in the legal sense, but in the deeper sense. Like I belonged somewhere without having to earn it by being easy. My mom still tells people I kicked them out over a bed. Aaron still calls me ungrateful. My stepdad probably still tells anyone who will listen that I'm cruel. But my sister sleeps in a warm room down the hall now, with a door locked if she wants it, and nobody calls her dramatic for needing safety. I wake up on holidays and make coffee in my own kitchen, and the silence isn't lonely. It's peaceful. And every once in a while, when guilt tries to creep back in, when I hear my mom's voice in my head saying family is family, I remember the smell of gasoline and the sound of laughter through the wall and the way my breath fogged in the dark. Then I remember the envelope on the table, and I don't flinch anymore.